Good evening, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Bhakti Community. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today, Bhakti On, where today's topic is what gets your mind, gets your life. Choose what deserves your attention, then build your life around it. With our speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. And we have around 12 members on Zoom. People are still dialing in, and I have Premanishta helping me out in managing social media today. So welcome back, Vaish, for another episode of Bhakti On. Really looking forward to the gems from this class today.
Oh, thanks so much, JM. I didn't know it was a live show. That's a lot of pressure. But great to see you all. Thank you very much for joining. And we'll hopefully take something away today that we can use. Life is always in flux and helpful to renew every day our determination, our focus. In fact, I've been looking around for a few things, documents, and also getting rid of a lot of things to get into a focus state. One thing I'm noticing about how many books I have, there seems to be a primal urge to keep books because I have a sense that I'll be able to imbibe everything in them and improve my life. But if I just, check my actuary charts, I don't think that even if I read nonstop, I could finish everything that I have here. But I've had that affliction for a long time. Even when I went through school, I used to save my textbooks because I would think I'll go back and really get as much out of it as possible. But time moves on. It's not necessary to get everything. It's especially helpful, however, to get those things that are most important. And this is one of the points that comes out in the Bhakti teachings. There's a congregation of sages, which is an event that can be world changing when those who have a deep commitment to spiritual practice come together for the sake of brainstorming, creating a mastermind to bring out the essence of all teachings. There's a book, Srimad Bhagavatam, which recounts that meeting at a forest named Naimisharanya, which incidentally is said to be the center of the universe. It's the hub. There's harmonic convergence there, apparently. Ideal for spiritual practice. And there the sages questioned Sutta, who had been appointed the speaker at the assembly because he was highly learned. And incidentally, uh, he was mentioned there as being highly qualified. One of his qualifications was that he was somya, which meant gentle and humble. Meant he was receptive to spiritual knowledge from his many teachers, and he had assimilated the knowledge in such a way that he could present it to others, give the essence of that. And so today I'll talk a little bit about some principles that have helped me to focus. Oh yes, and I was getting to something. In looking for some of my papers, I find it to be rather like an archaeological dig. I've seen it at Angkor Wat, one of the largest religious, if not the largest religious building in the world. It's in Cambodia. I went there once just to take a look at it. And there was an agency there comprised of experts who were taking tiny, tiny little pieces of the temple that had fallen. It had fallen into disrepair, and they're reassembling it one piece at a time. Thousands, tens of thousands of them. And I feel like that sometimes when I'm going through my papers. But I did find some from 45 years ago in which I had begun setting goals. I found those. And I had lived as a monk for 13 years. And when I was changing into another ashram, I had visited my parents and I wrote down some goals. And I stayed with them a few days and then I went onward to India. And they wrote me a letter a little concerned because they thought my goals were a little ambitious, considering the fact that I was sort of starting over in the world. And I had noted years later when I got that, I had left it there and accidentally, and they read it. That's what happened. I have it now in my possession. And in an uncanny way, I noticed, I should say, it was uncanny that even though I didn't have the paper, I was able to achieve all those goals. And it instilled in me this sense that as humans, it's very important for us to remember our purpose and to always have a target that we're aiming for, as time is short. And in the bhakti process, we find that our predecessor teachers had quantified things. In other words, even in the bhakti practice, there's a way in which if you want to stay on track and be really focused, you should make some clear goals and live by a philosophy. Don't get distracted. It is mentioned in a song commemorating uh, six of the greatest teachers of bhakti from over 500 years ago. The song begins with Sankhya, Sankhya Purvaka, means that they were preoccupied with their bhakti practices, but they especially quantified them. Every day they knew how many of the mantras they would chant, how many pages they would read or write, and so forth. And so this is one of the ways in which we can overcome the resistance, which I'll talk about. I extracted this idea from a book called The War of Art. People may say, no, you mean the art of war, right? And I say, no. It's by Stephen Pressfield. He's the one who wrote the the book, The Legend of Bagger Vance, which is about Bhagavad Gita, and it got turned into a movie in which the characters were supposedly following the plot of Krishna and Arjuna at Kurukshetra, which you know is from the Bhagavad Gita, but instead of being on a battlefield, it was on a golf course, and the caddy was played by a character of a famous movie star. He played the role of Krishna to advise the golfer who had his moments of doubt and so forth. So anyway, today I'll talk about a few principles that have been helpful to me, and they can be readily applied to bhakti following the tradition of some of the great teachers, most notably, as I mentioned, what are called the six Goswamis, who are called the six Goswamis, who are especially revered for their writings, their realizations, and their steady practice of bhakti. So since the program is called Bhakti On, it would be appropriate to mention some of these principles and philosophical underpinning that we can hold on to make steady progress. So since we're here, maybe if anybody is here for the first time and wants to say hey, you can say hey. Or if you've invited a guest and you want to introduce him or her, Kota Karnava, go ahead.
Oh,
You-
hold on a second. Here I am. My name's David. I'm here for the first time. I'm just very interested in this new stuff, and it's new. It's not new. I mean, I've been practicing in my own way for years, just kind of, building my own blocks of faith from all kinds of things. Hey guys, how's it going? Um, but I find this very interesting, and it's eye-opening in a lot of cases, and some things that I forgot kind of just rush back into my memory when certain things are said by people like you, and I really do appreciate the invite here.
Yeah, thanks, David. I felt some spiritual energy coming out of that window that you're in there. You
Yeah.
already checked in. I could
Yeah,
tell
well,
that
I,
was
I'm
up.
I'm tapped into my faith of just my own questions really, and I'm a little a little bit of a philosopher. I write a lot, and I find this all very, very intriguing, interesting. And just thank you so much for talking with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Feel already a kindred soul there.
Yeah.
I also like to write and think and take in the best of information from wherever it's available. I feel like that's for humans. What else would we be doing, right?
Well, I mean, we're all born asking the same questions, like, "What am I? Who are you? What is this?" All these, but we're all kind of born that way, and we somewhere along the line, I feel like we forget to stop asking those questions and as our own self instead of for someone else. Their questions became my life in a lot of cases for a lot of time, and took a lot of suffering to get out of that mindset, to be honest. And I'm just happy to be around some people that are in the same space as me.
Yeah, definitely. I resonate with that point you made about how suffering can be a gateway to um, spiritual realization.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what at my worst, I was actually at the tipping point of being like, well, this is actually where I make the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Absolutely. It's when we become lucid and realize that why not be completely real? Because any
Right,
kind
right.
of artifice that causes us to cover up the pain or whatever, why not just face it directly?
I totally agree. And
And,
honesty has saved my life many, many times, and just recently. So I'm very happy for, being able to do that with people.
wow, that's sounds like a good title for an essay. How
Yeah.
honesty saved my life. No, I mean, really, that
No, I
sounds
get that.
compelling.
I do write a lot. It all kind of comes out as poetry or music. Sometimes I do a lot of music, and my conversation, I feel like, is kind of that same flow a lot of the time, just because it's where I like to be.
You play an instrument?
I play the keyboards. I play a little guitar. I sing, and I produce a lot of music on a program called Ableton Live, which is like a lot of DJs, a lot of. It doesn't matter what kind of music, really. It's just it does it all, really.
Well, we may have to insist on hearing one of your songs one
Oh
day.
yeah, well I got plenty of them. I'd happily.
All right. Where are you?
I'm in South Lake Tahoe.
Oh, so you got some air up there, huh?
Well, yeah, it's beautiful. Besides all the cloud seeding they do, it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Um, but yeah, the scenery up here is absolutely breathtaking, and on a daily basis. I
Yeah.
think yesterday was probably the best sunset I've seen up here all year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, thank you very much for coming in here and
my pleasure. Thanks for
bringing
having
such
me.
positive energy, David. It's great to
Yeah,
have you here.
thank you.
Wow.
And Kautuk met David at Lake Tahoe and
Yes, yes.
gave a Bhagavatam set. So he has full Bhagavatam set with him. So really thank Kautuk for introducing David and
Yes, thank you,
um,
Kautu.
Well, that's for those who don't know, Kautik he's a monk, but he parachutes into various places around the world. And
Yeah.
he brings with him one of the wisdom literatures that's most revered and that there's easy access to. It's voluminous, but it's a page turner. Once you start, it's impossible to stop reading it because it's so fulfilling. And it's almost as if the book itself knows us better than we know ourselves and gives us that psychological advantage of revealing how we can overcome the various anomalies of the psychological anomalies we may pick up from the environment in the material world. In fact, there's an an ambience here in this world that just by swimming in the same water of negativity, we sort of pick it up ourselves. Bhagavatam helps us to overcome that. Well, good work, Kotik. And it looks like you're in your plane again, ready to jump out in a parachute. Fantastic. Anybody else here for the first time or wants to just say hi? And Vicky's from welcome back to Matthew. Why don't you say something about that, Vicky? Matthew's back. I noticed it too. Matthew's good to see you.
Thank you.
It's me.
Go ahead, Matt.
It's my first time here. I'm a regular at Bhakti Santa Cruz, sometimes in the Silicon Valley.
Oh, that's why I've seen you.
Right.
And you're a familiar face to me. Hey, great to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Privilege.
Matt, on Bhakti on. Really
Thank you.
missing you. It's been a long time, but glad that you are able to join us online.
Thank you. I appreciate that, JM.
Yeah. Anyone else here for the first time? Good. Vicky?
I'll keep it quick. Molly is here. Maybe for the second or third time, Molly, you'll have to correct me, but Jyotsna has been keeping in touch with Molly, and I believe that Molly also met Kautuk. Molly, if you would like to introduce yourself, we're very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yes, hi, I'm in Irving, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas.
Great. Thanks for joining, Molly. You have a tree in your house?
It's a yes, a corn plant that has sort of taken over.
It looks like it's thriving. You get good light in there, huh?
Yes, so we have a lot of sunshine here in Texas.
That's good. I have a little plant back here. I don't know if you can see it in my background.
Uh-huh.
That's a real plant.
A snake plant, right? Or
You're
sometimes,
obviously an expert on plants.
or some people call it mother-in-law's tongue, which I think is rather pejorative, but
I'm never
okay.
going to see it in the same light. That plant. That's really good. Well, thanks, Molly. Good to have you here from Texas, especially Irvine.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Nama, go ahead.
I just wanted to welcome Cherry. She messaged on chat. She's from remote Australia, but I think she's dropped off because she was having some internet issues. But she'll be watching the recording. So I wanted to welcome her anyway.
Oh, great, great. Okay, well, we're saying a welcome to you if you're listening online, and Jai Hari's here. Jai Hari, you were on mute and now looks like you're frozen.
Oh, well,
Now you're good. You're good now.
okay.
We can
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just Petita Pavana Prabhu gave me the link. I'm here in Houston. So I just wanted to say hi. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jai Hari. Great to see you. And please say hi to everybody in Houston for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, great.
Great. Okay, Jam, we're off to the races here. We have a few slides for you. Does anybody have any questions before we start?
No, I'm good.
Oh, all good? Okay. All right, here we go. First, I'd like to talk about scarcity because it's an interesting topic to me. That's a picture which would not be of scarcity. Yeah, I remember when I took a class in economics. I still have that book, I think, because it cost so much and it was a paperback. And it began with talking about how economics is the management of scarcity. It caught my eye immediately, and I started thinking, oh, are there scarce resources here in this world? According to the economic theory, there are. According to the ancient Upanishads, in fact, I was just teaching a class last night to some kids who are memorizing the ancient Sri Ishopanishad. There's 18 verses and an invocation, all in Sanskrit, but they're memorizing it together. And the first verse in it begins with the statement Om Purnam Adah Purnamidam, which means that the world is complete. And everything that is manifested in this world is also complete in itself. There's a complete arrangement in nature, as we may notice, a tree has fruits, fruits have seeds, seeds create more trees, and so forth. Without going into all the details, there's a completeness to the world. Nonetheless, there may be a sense of scarcity. And thinking about scarce resources, that was a pretty poor transition going from abundance to scarcity. Let me explain a little bit more. There are ways in which, unless we become cognizant of the completeness of the world, we may feel scarcity in our lives. We talked about this in another class recently. There is a way in which when we're aware of where happiness comes from, and it doesn't come from acquisition of more in the world, it comes from a state of consciousness where we have a sense of our identity as separate from the changing world. We can feel happy within ourselves. That almost sounds cliche to say happiness comes from within, but according to the Bhagavad Gita and the ancient wisdom literatures, it does. And so this sense of scarcity, which then gets expressed as the search for a system to manage scarce resources, when translated into a code for self-realization, goes something like this: that a satisfying object of thought is the rarest anchor for the modern mind. So when we think, what am I lacking? What's scarce in my life? What resource is the most scarce? The answer that would come from the Upanishads, these ancient wisdom literatures, is the ultimate object of meditation. That where I can place my attention, where I'll feel complete. Again, the thought process I'm trying to present, although in a convoluted way, is that the world's complete, we're complete, but we feel dissatisfaction, we feel scarcity. But there is an object of thought, of meditation, of focus that will complete us, where we'll realize our completeness and we'll feel satisfaction. So just putting it this way, that the number one scarce resource is that object of meditation. So one of the principles of yoga, or of any progressive life for that matter, is identifying where I can place my attention so that I will feel satisfied. And in the book Srimad Bhagavatam, which we mentioned earlier, that David has and Kautukarnava is out distributing to various people, there's a discussion about the ultimate object of meditation and how to, as we're interacting with the world with its myriad distractions, keep our mind focused on that ultimate object of meditation. Sherelle, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thanks for having me here. Just in regards to that, we're whole, we're complete in our true essence. And then like we chant rounds to become more whole. Like it's almost like we're telling ourselves that we have to do this thing to become pure. It's almost like you're not accepting who you truly are, that you have to do something to improve.
Yes. So the way
So
that, please go ahead.
I just, yeah, sometimes I'm like, well, I get it, because I know when I chant, I feel like I'm connected to that truth and to Krishna. But sometimes I'm like, well, I'm just like telling myself something that, yeah, is already whole. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I have a ready answer for you based
Great.
on the understanding that the ancient sages had for this condition. And a metaphor that the teacher Rupa Goswami, who lived over 500 years ago, gives for this in his concise book on Bhakti Yoga is an analogy about how when you get jaundice, you have a bilious secretion in your body so that everything tastes bitter. And it just turns out, as it turns out, one of the curatives for jaundice is sugarcane juice, quite prevalent in India even today. You find places where people have a small business, like people here in California might have a lemonade stand, that they have these little stands where they have stalks of sugarcane and they put it through a little crusher and all the juice comes out. And when you have jaundice, a doctor will tell you, make sure you drink your sugarcane juice every day because it helps to cure the disease of jaundice. So Rupa Goswami seizes on this and he says that, as you gave the example of chanting mantra, which connects us to the ultimate object of meditation. And then it may at sometimes feel awkward or maybe distasteful even, he says. I'm not saying you said that, I'm just saying this is what he said. And then he says, well, this is the same experience when you drink sugarcane juice when you're ill with jaundice, as the sweetest thing, sugarcane tastes terrible. Sugarcane juice tastes very bitter and obnoxious. But he says at that stage, you have to take it like medicine. And then gradually, as you continue to take it medicinally, you'll notice that it starts to get sweeter over time when the disease is cured. And so we do have an original nature, which the Bhagavad Gita and other shastras, wisdom literatures describe as Satchit Ananda. We do feel we are complete in ourselves, and we do feel natural satisfaction in the self. But because we're distracted by the mind, by the life situation, by identification with the body, it can even seem torturous to try to bring the mind back to that position. So it's a medicinal analogy.
And it's for the personality, it's not for our true self, because we are whole. It's for the covering, hey, like to clear that.
Yeah, just like when you're
And
ill, you're not really yourself. When you think of getting up and going out and meeting people and walking in the daylight when you're very ill, you might think, oh, I don't want to do that anymore because it doesn't sound nice. And so we're not really ourselves because our natural condition is to interact with the world. But when we're also covered and not experiencing our true nature, then we need some remedial measure until we do.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Hedy.
Hey, Krishna. I thought, I thought maybe you can help me understand this better. I thought we chanted to be closer to the divine, to Krishna, not necessarily because we're not already whole, I guess.
Yeah, but it acts medicinally as you do, because when we are in a certain state of consciousness, we don't feel our connection. And so, yes, we're reconnecting through the mantra, definitely. But the medicinal effect is there at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Good to see you here. Okay, that's one slide. I have a few more. The next is about investment. We call self-investment. And this is something that Krishna goes into in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter and in other chapters, but very particularly in the 6th chapter, which is called Dhyana Yoga. This word dhyana comes from the root word in Sanskrit, dhit, which means to absorb the mind. The mind naturally goes. It's always moving, changing, and it's looking for something. Just like if you're traveling and you look at your smartphone, you may notice that it has a little message that says searching for a network. I noticed that once, and I compared that in that moment when I saw that to my mind's always searching for a network to connect to somewhere. And so one of the practices that Krishna talks about is training the mind, because it doesn't naturally go to the ultimate object of meditation. And we could consider that we are the most influential person in our lives. That is, we're living with a mind that is full of impulses, or I could just say it's impulsive. And Krishna recommends remembering that the mind is trainable, it's worth training. And if you're able to train the mind so that it goes to the ultimate object of meditation, then it becomes your friend. Otherwise, it can become an enemy, he says. You know, William Blake had mentioned how the mind can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. It's our state of consciousness. And therefore, it's the environment that we live in. And so one of the methods of yoga is to purify the mind. And now we have Negan.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
The question is, the question was about how we think and what do we think about. That's the question for me. You're right, it's good to be in control of our mind, but what do we need to think? And it's not only to be positive, because these days everywhere they said be positive, be positive. I think that is not the answer. Being kind, maybe somehow, but how we need to figure out what do we need to think and how we need to direct our mind.
Well, what a great question. And I feel almost as if I've cheated you by not saying what it was. That in the very oldest literatures of the Vedas, there's a statement in Sanskrit that says Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada Pashanti Surayaha Diviva Chaksharatam Tavibraso Vipanyabo Jagravansaha Smindate Vishnu Yat Paramam Padam. And what this is a reminder to fix our mind on our original divine source. And the philosophy of the Vedas is that everything comes from one original divine source. And that divine source is personal. It's a personal universe, it's relational. And we may notice that when we ask questions, for instance, as David was saying in the beginning, he asked questions. And why would he ask a question? For instance, say it out to the universe, is because there's an answer there waiting to come back to you. And there's a personal presence of the divine everywhere within our heart, within every atom, actually, all pervading. However, there's a source, that original person, everyone comes from there, and all the energies we see in the world are subsumed under the category of the original source. And so this ancient Sanskrit saying means keep your mind fixed on your source. And one of the names for that original source is Vishnu. Vishnu comes from the word Vish. Vish means that entity who's entered within everything and is all pervading, including within your heart. And there are other names for that original divine source that are charming. It's part of the chanting process that is most recommended. It's very personal because within the mantra, you're actually saying names of the original divine source, and then your mind goes there. So this is the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the ancient Vedas. that fix your mind on the form of the original source of everything, Vishnu.
Okay.
Now, the science of bhakti yoga is how to do that in all the aspects of your life. Because you may say, my mind goes somewhere else. Okay, well, there's ways in which, as we interact with the world, we may become very aware of the sacredness of the world and connect it back to the source. For instance, the world has its beautiful aspects. A couple I can think of right now, the fragrance of the earth. You know, when it rains for the first time after a long time, and you can smell that really robust, earthy smell that comes from rain hitting the ground.
It's actually called petrichor, is what that's called.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
That's my new word for the day, petrichor.
Petrichor. Yeah.
Petrichor. Spell it.
I'm not great at spelling. Petrichor, I think.
There it is. You're right. You are good at spelling.
Okay.
This is a petro means relating to rocks. The smell is believed to be caused
Like the
by
asphalt. The smell is the asphalt. The rain on it. Yeah.
a pleasant smell that frequently accompanies the first rain after. Goodness gracious, David, you gave me a perfect word.
You didn't know that one.
I'm gonna owe you for a long time.
Oh, I love that. I use that word regularly, and people are like, "What does that mean?"
All right. Well, I'm gonna start using it too, and I'll tell people I got it from you.
All right.
Petrichor. Yeah, petrichor. Where does that come from? Well, this is one of the very charming aspects of the Bhagavad Gita. It says that scent that uplifts us. We feel the petrichor effect, or even the smell of the earth, which is expressed through flowers. After all, the plants are just they're pulling out the essence of the earth with their little toes in the form of roots, and then they express it through these scents. You know, where's this all coming from? So it says it's coming from our source. So within the world, there's a way to train the mind to see a sunset. David just saw the most beautiful sunset he's ever seen there in Lake Tahoe. And so, like, what is that? It's unique, it's beautiful, and it reminds us that we're in a cosmos. Cosmos means a world of order. There's some things going on that you can count on here and so forth. These are all preliminary ways in which to fix the mind on the Supreme, to understand the intelligence behind the world. If you're in science, you might look at the double helix and go deeply within the mathematical biology and be able to see the order within cells. If you want to look just casually at a few elements of the earth, you can look online. There's a website, Grains of Sand, I think it's called, and there's magnification of little piles of sand from various beaches around the world. Every one of those little specks is a jewel when you look at it up close. Just looks like sand from from a distance. So in the Bhagavad Gita and the wisdom literatures, there's a way of keep bringing your mind back to that original divine source. And remember, we have a very deep relationship with that source. And that's the cradling effect, to realize that we're always being protected, nourished at every moment. Our intelligence is coming from that source. Those who live close to the earth oftentimes have cultures where they celebrate various aspects of nature because they realize there's a divine presence that's running through everything. You know, you find in Emerson and Thoreau, when they're writing about going out into nature for some time and just experiencing, even noticing their own body coursing, icing the body electric. You know, that passage, noticing how the body is going on in such a mystical way. These are all aspects of awareness of the Supreme, and it could be more and more refined. And there's no ending point because it's infinite. Our original source is infinite. Okay, Negan?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for such a nice question. Are
Thanks.
you in Australia?
No, I mean, Sunnyvale, close to you. You're in.
Yeah, Sunnyvale looks just like Australia. What can I
Yes,
say?
but interesting. You're talking about Petrichor, And the rains came and the smell came out just
That's
now
nice.
around here. That
I,
smells
I think it's a good name for a kid. Somebody asked me what to name their child. I'll say Petrichor. Well, fantastic. I'm glad you're so close, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so self-investment, train your mind. That's such a fun project, isn't it? To train your mind. And if you train your mind and you know what the reward is, then it becomes your preoccupation rather than letting your mind go wherever it wants to go. eh, Train it up. Okay, let's look at a few more. The structure beneath every action. A plan gets you started, specific, written, and deadline driven, and a philosophy keeps you going. The resilient, purpose-driven foundation that stabilizes you when the plan gets hard. Keep coming back to this, say the sages. Don't deviate from your plan. I can show you mine. I see that book sitting on that table there. I have this little book, and of course, it fills up at some point, but in the back, I've written my plan and my philosophy and my goals. And I keep looking at it every day because the mind is going to go somewhere. And unless I direct it, and when I'm in the right state of mind and I write it down and say, this is where we're going to go. You know, when people sign a contract, there's a statement there that says, I, such and such, uh, certify that I'm in sound mind right now while I'm signing this. I'm not under duress and I'm not deranged at this point. So I'm signing it. So at that time, make your plan and write it down and then have a philosophy. One of the philosophies of the Bhagavad Gita is that our life as human beings, the duration of life that we have, has an ultimate goal. One of those ultimate goals is described in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is translated, the title of that chapter is Attaining the Supreme. So this human form is like a launching pad. And we're meant to get ready for leaving the body. Now, someone may say, well, that sounds a little macabre. Why don't you just live your life? Well, as it turns out, psychologically, when you have a sense of the fact that you're going to leave the body, and you may even say it's imminent because, I mean, if you live in 100 years in this body, what's 100 years in geological time? Not much. So you may think, okay, I have a short duration of life, and I should be prepared to leave my body in such a way that I elevate myself in the next life. That's one of the main themes of these ancient wisdom literatures. Come to grips with the fact that you're in a temporary body and that there's an ultimate goal. JM, I think we got some messages coming in the chat. Let's check it out.
Yeah, Asa is asking, what a good plan to end 2026 on good terms and develop ourselves for next year better.
Well, a few fundamental practices that I recommend are reading. There's far too much scrolling. Of course, you can always read on a screen, but I do recommend taking some time to read from paper books if possible, unless it's not possible, and having a quota of how much you read every day. And of course, it's not just reading, but it's what you read that makes the difference. There's so much knowledge transferred over generations in the form of writings, and it's available to us. Now, for those interested in spiritual advancement, there are essential books to read. For instance, Bhagavad Gita is one of them. Doesn't matter how many times you read it, it still uh, resonates as being uh, profound in that it's so intuitive, knows us very well, and gives us ways to navigate the world in such a way that we become happy. So that's one recommendation I hold dear to myself. My teacher told me that years ago when I first met him, and he just spontaneously told me that I should invest as much time as possible in reading these books. And so it's one of my main goals every year is to be on a schedule. And what really helps me, I'll show you, I'm going to give you a demonstration, show and tell. Wait 1 second, I'll be back. Because the books I'm reading are always out. Like this is what I'm reading right now. Actually, I was researching one book, but reading this book. Now here's a book that I'm reading. It's called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what I'll point out to you is that I have little tags in the book. This tag has an arrow on it and sticks in the book. And the other tag, which is its counterpart, has a number on it. And I'm about to show you that without losing my place in my book, I hope. This tag has the number 41. What does that stand for? It means my quota of reading from this book every day is 41 pages. So when I start, I have these two tags. I move the tag of 41 forward 41 pages, obviously. And then the little arrow is where I am in catching up to that 41 sticker. So let's just say I have to take a break because I have something else to do. If I put the book down and I mark it, when I come back, I know I have to I have to go from the arrow to the 41. I recommend that because all leaders are readers, even in the mundane sense. And there's a way in which you develop your mind, your intelligence. And if you read the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or other books that are edifying to you, then you'll find that there's such a refuge there that you can take journeys. You can feel peaceful even by focusing your eyes on one place and reviewing what you're reading. Okay, that was an elaborate explanation on that question. So, Jay, I'm going to try to do a couple more slides. This is one of my favorite ones, number 6, is about resistance, and I mentioned it earlier. Such an interesting concept to me. I've written 2 books. The first book took me a long time to write, so did the second one actually. But I was wondering why it took me so long. I had an editor, and I had talked to her extensively about what I was going to write, and she would ask me to send her something. I said, "Yeah, I've been working on it." She said, "Send me something," and I said, "Well, I don't really have anything to send you." Because it's easier to think a book than it actually is to write it. And I resonated, as I mentioned before, with the book called the War of Art. And in it, Stephen Pressfield talks about especially artistic endeavors, but especially writing, and how there's a force in the universe he calls resistance. And he spells it with a capital R. And if you sit down to write something on a blank page, and that force of resistance may tell you to go build a house, you'll do anything to avoid actually confronting yourself in the blank page and writing. And so that's there everywhere. And this is one of the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita, that there's a force in the universe we have to contend with. It's called, it's under different names like Maya, and there's the distractions in the world that come to us unsought. And so we have to learn to face resistance, because if we just give into it, it leads to mediocrity in our lives. And one of the ways that I've found very helpful, and it's listed here, is list your top 101 obstacles. Keep a list of the obstacles that are distracting you from what you really want to do, and you know what's best for you. And the first step in overcoming these obstacles is awareness that they're there. If they're just hidden and you can't see them, they'll attack all the time, and they'll keep us away from our true aim in life. That's a pretty grandiose statement, true aim in life, but in any case, I'm going to have to leave it at that. So write them down. What do you think about making a list of 101 obstacles? How long do you think it would take you to write down 101 obstacles, Tim?
A long time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you think of any? You don't have to mention them, but can you think of any off the top of your head, things that distract you from keeping your mind focused on your goals?
Social media, that's an easy one. But I've gotten rid of it, but I think that's a common one for most people.
Wow, you got rid of it. That's not, well, it's common for most people, but it's not common for getting rid of it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, okay, that's one. Now you just need 100 more. So did anybody else can think of a distraction that you would put down on paper that for the purpose of building awareness that it's there and you'd want to overcome it?
I think just problems with money, really, money problems,
Money problems, okay. Financial issues.
financial issues.
Okay.
Yes.
Fascinating. Any more?
Asa says anger, and Phil says, I removed social media years ago. Don't miss it.
Okay.
Anger, distraction, phone and scrolling. And Phil doesn't miss social media. Good. Never ending daily chores and not keeping the main thing as the main thing. Okay, thanks, Ankit. Well, anyways, it's very personal. And if you notice that there are ways in which you're being distracted and you make a note of them, it's a first step to becoming aware that you can rise above them. It's uncanny how well it works, that first step. Okay, next one is consistency over numbers. Strive for consistency, the numbers will follow. There's a way in which we may think if I can't do everything or if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do anything. So in spiritual practice, steadiness is extremely powerful. Of course, in any discipline it is. In finances, it's extremely powerful. If you steadily invest, even if it's a small amount over a long period of time, compounded interest is the key. So don't worry if you think you're going slow. It's not about slow or fast. It's really about steadiness. So try to find a pace that you can keep for your spiritual practices that you can do regularly. And usually when these ancient texts talk about regularly, they say at least once a day. That's ideal because the cycle of the sun coming up and coming down, you have a little opportunity. I don't know how much you get in Australia. We here in California, we get 24 the hours. What do you get there in Australia? Sherelle, do you get the same amount of time? Because Australia is pretty unusual
Yeah,
place.
last time I checked, I think we
All
still
right,
have
24
24.
same. Yeah, so it's not time, it's the same amount of time, but it's a matter of a wedge principle. You have to wedge into your life the practices that you know are especially beneficial. And even if you start small, like the small side of a wedge is smaller the better. And then with a little bit of consistency, you'll notice that you make spiritual progress and there's nothing succeeds like success. Let's see if you have any reflections. I have more slides, but we've discussed a few things. And do you have any thoughts that you want to share about any of them? Or do you have a question that you think would help elucidate some of the principles more in detail? Give more detail.
Good.
Yes, please, Ishwari Radha.
I really like the point that you said about how the book knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yeah, and I think I used the phrase uncanny, one of my favorite phrases. And yeah, well, you want to say more about that? Why did you gravitate towards that point?
Because I noticed that when I make it like a routine every day, and just recently we went to Aruba and we just got back late last night for my dad's 80th birthday. My brother was so keen on going somewhere else, you know? And I was like, why don't you just do like a little spiritual thing? Why don't we just get together and like read and have some prasad or something, you know? But he was so adamant. And I said, oh, Krishna, what do I do now? While I was there, I was like, I was keeping my, spiritual practice going. But luckily, my sister and my mom were there, and she would tell me, "Oh, do you want to read that book that you brought with you? Why don't we do that tonight instead of going out to eat with them?" And we bought some food with us, you know? So we're like, "Oh, we have enough food here. Why don't you guys just go, you know?" And that really helped me, like, my mind was going, I shouldn't be here. Why am I here? And then when we read the book, we're like, oh, it's okay. You can be anywhere and still feel connected.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the personal anecdote. And this is a shared experience. And its books are portable. You can bring them anywhere. If you keep that habit going, then it tends to have you develop an intimacy with the book. Ashta.
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for that point of reading that we should be reading books every single day, which is something I really like. But at the same time, sometimes I get a little demotivated because I feel like I've read a lot of books, self-motivating books, even like I've tried reading the book, but I feel like because I forget and I cannot apply it, then I sometimes just feel like I'm just taking in too much content, but at the same time, I don't see a practical change in me. So then I just feel a little bit that I don't know.
Yeah, I could relate to that. And I have a suggestion. And you may already do this, but I marked my books. I don't know if you noticed the book I'm reading now. I've read it before. Can you see the number of tags that are in the book there?
Mhm.
Is that visible?
Yep.
Those are all flags, and there's marginalia here also. And what I like to do is collect the most salient points and then go back over it and do a close reading. And I also pick out those points and transfer them to a place where I can look at them more regularly. It's like mining for the points that make most are most relevant to me. And from doing that, it gives me it seems more practical. There are things that I can apply there, and I can also pass on to other people, and they become relevant. The little points that I pull out, the themes, and even sentences and things like that. And you might try that because it can be very helpful in the close reading of the book to go a little more deeper and feel that you're utilizing what you're reading. Thank you, Asta.
Thank you.
David, what'd you think? Anything you're taking away?
Oh, I've loved every minute of it. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of what I think about regularly. Um, just it's nice to have somebody else put them in different words. Sometimes I can't put words on my thoughts, but this kind of just it makes it a little easier to understand for me in my own life. But yeah, thank you so much. Been very helpful. One question I had actually, sometimes I feel like I get flooded with thought that just kind of comes out of my mouth, especially like when I've been meditating a lot, it just kind of comes out. I was just curious what a good method would be to kind of hold them in and not necessarily, I know there's a lot of things that I want to say, but not necessarily that I should say. Um, but I feel like they get caught up and they play ping pong in my mind a lot. The words that I want to say, but I can't in some way.
My solution is to say 20% less of what you think you have to say.
Yeah,
I really
I could
is.
even use a
It's
higher
a
percentage
principle I
now.
have. I've said it
Yeah.
before, and that when I often and I relate to what you're saying. There are various impulses in the mind. Say this, say that, talk about this. but I have a review system because I have the 20% rule, 20% less.
Okay.
And
I just
therefore,
when I
yes.
meditate a lot, I notice that it comes out more. I have less of a filter. I don't let things sit in my mind as much, but sometimes I come off as rude. Sometimes I feel like, but not intentionally, you know.
Yeah, there's a teaching in the Bhagavad Gita in the 17th chapter. It's called the austerities of speech. And there Krishna gives this idea of how to filter your speech. The various elements says make sure it's truthful. You mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
Truthful, beneficial. He says it should be pleasing. And then he says avoid speech that offends. That's a big, there's more to say about these, so face value.
Sure, but this is a whole nother.
And the fifth
weekend.
one is what I mentioned earlier about you should regularly recite these wisdom literatures because they're like algorithms. And if you're regularly reciting them, it kind of coordinates your.
So chanting would help with this.
Yeah,
this idea.
absolutely, definitely.
I was thinking if I eat better and I chant, that's kind of what I was thinking. If I chant and eat better, it would probably help quite a bit.
Absolutely, that's one of the main tenets of Bhakti Yoga is you are what you eat, not just not just in body, but also in mind as well. It's a lifestyle adjustment. Yeah.
You know, I think I asked Kautuk that the other day, and he told me those things. So that's why.
Kautuk will send you the verse too about the 5 things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great to see you. We'll come up and see you soon.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm getting lots of
and that
lots
goes
of
for everybody in
right
Australia too. On our way. So
I was
thank you
about
very
to
much.
say that you
What?
gotta come. I was about to say that you promised you were gonna come here first.
Of course. That's why I'm practically packed and ready to go. Okay, well,
My door's open.
I just have to figure out how the water goes the opposite direction when I get to Australia. I don't know if I can cope with that. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And JM, thank you very much for facilitating this space for us, keeping it open. And for everybody who joined in, I hope there were some principles that you took away that you could find that you will find helpful. And we have a saying KTTVG, keep the transcendental vibration going. It's the main thing. And if you keep that going, then we can overcome the mind, we can purify the mind, and we'll always stay fixed. And you know, the yogis high in the Himalayas, when they come out of their caves and they see one another from time to time in the high peaks of the Himalayas, they have this saying, goes Hari Bo, which really translated means keep the transcendental vibration going. So it's an abbreviated way of saying it. You want to do it before we go? They put their hands up in the air and they do it. Let's try. 1, 2, 3. Hari Bo.
Haribo.